I think I'll back this up a bit. Oops, shoot, went too far. Okay, yeah, I'll read this again. Suddenly, two swords grew out of the Holy Helper's hand and started to look at Newton's crew like they were weeds to whack. The crew started backing up and reaching for their weapons. Right when the Holy Helper looked like he was going to whack Sheena, Newton flew at him, tackling the Holy Helper to the ground. The two wrestled about in the alley while the crew and other Holy Helper just watched. When the two got up off the ground, the Holy Helper Newton was fighting with went after him, trying to slice Newton to pieces. Newton quickly ducked and dodged the swords and countered with strong kicks and punches to the side of the Holy Helper's face, jaw, and back. When Newton noticed that his punches and kicks didn't seem to be having much of effect, he then flew about 50 feet from the blades, tore a metal pole out of the ground, then tested the man's sword's metal. The notion that this was a regular guy Newton was fighting with had now long since vanished. Newton was able to shatter the swords, but they were only replaced by new ones. The ones that were shattered and lying on the ground began to be reabsorbed into the ground, giving the Metania crew who saw it a sick feeling in their stomachs. Although Newton's artificial limbs hadn't been charged to their strongest, they were still incredibly powerful, allowing Newton to duck, dodge, and strike hard on the side of the Holy Helper's head, back, neck, and shoulders, hitting him with strikes that would have shattered into powder a normal man's bones. Suddenly, after sending the Holy Helper a kick to the side of the head that sent him nearly crashing through a wall, the Holy Helper that was reading the decorated book pulled out a gun and started shooting at Newton. Newton took 2 bullets in the back before one of Newton's crew produced a ray gun, sent the Holy Helper with the gun up into a cloud of red. He, apparently, was normal. After killing that one, the crewman pointed his gun at the one that was far more aggressive. Right when he was about to pull a trigger, the sword-producing Holy Helper flew at Newton. Newton dodged aside, spun around with lightning speed, with the pole in his hands, struck the Holy Helper so hard he or it went flying at the pillar that was already straining under a lot of weight. The pillar shattered. "Look out!" shouted one of the crew as the house of Ramada lost a good part of its roof. A big air conditioner went tumbling into the street. The Holy Helper managed to survive both the strike of the pole and the pillar contact. The Holy Helper started to get up with debris hanging off of him, and suddenly his head went tumbling and rolling down some of that debris while his body fell forward into it. Newton had swung his hand down upon the Holy Helper's neck in a karate chop way, and that did it. The loud crash of the House of Ramada piqued up curiosity from others, and now Newton and crew had an audience with those who heard the fighting and came to investigate. Instead of blood, there was dust in the air. Dust was actually pouring from the neck of the Holy Helper, but before Newton could react to such a sight, he became distracted by the sound of a car that was approaching but now stopped. It had 2 more Holy Helpers within it. They got out of the car and looked shocked. Newton raised the pole like he was going to attack them. Instead of challenging Newton, they ran off screaming. Strange. Why do you think they chickened out? Newton asked his crew as they were bewildered as well. Yeah. An idea came into Newton's mind, and he said with widened eyes, "Hey, apparently there are only a few true Holy Helpers, while others are just going along for the alienating ride. If these people realized just how few there really were," Callisto finished Newton's sentence with, "the people could probably defeat Bob on their own." Newton and crew heard a humming sound that seemed to be coming out of the ground. They noticed that the man Newton sent off into 2 pieces was actually now melting into the ground like the swords did. "Newton, look!" shouted the crewman. 2 indentations were forming in the ground, and 2 holy helpers, exactly like the one Newton thought he destroyed, were now coming up out of the ground. Newton felt a little fear mixed with anger, but hid it well by trying to make light of it. "Ah, isn't that cute?" said Newton. "You kill one and all you do is make more of them." Newton then said nonchalantly, "Well, I wonder how many I could make." He looked at his crew and said, "Weapons, fire." The crew struck the 2 replicas of the man Newton just found, that Newton just fought, with the intense beam of their ray guns, disintegrating them both. But before they could relish in whatever destruction they brought on the god of Ramadar, they were suddenly distracted by a loud siren sound that was stopping everyone from doing what they were doing and facing the direction of the absorber of their life force. Those who had been watching the fight, the Newton fight, seemed terribly torn. They wanted to see what else the strangers and his friends would do next, but then again, they didn't want to risk hell or have their city destroyed. Newton yelled at them, "You are all free now. If that big bastard shows up, he's going to have to deal with something that will greatly give him a bad beard day, if you know what I mean." And Newton threw a fist into the palm of his hand with a wild look in his eyes. The crew, and the people in the area looked horrified. They couldn't respond, yet they wanted to. They had to face the absorber, but why? If just a few rebels were going to blow it for all of them. Then again, there was the threat of hell on top of it, and of it, all that Fuyu had, on top of it, all that Fuyu hadn't revealed yet. Please face the absorber," one begged with her voice and eyes as her face and body faced the direction of the absorber. Newton and his crew experimented by looking at the same direction as those around them, and immediately felt kind of tired as a humming sound occurred again, along with 4 more indentations that were forming. It was proof that there were now 4 more replicas of the Holy Helper Newton had destroyed. Although Newton was a mutant and quite different from the time he was a normal man, he was noticing a bit of draining sensation himself. Newton made a move with his head, and his crew followed him toward what was left of the house of Ramada, leaving the natives around them shaking in their shoes. One guy came at Newton like a crab. Newton smacked the absorber-looking man, a good one, knocking him out. Newton and crew then entered the place that had a lot more sunshine, and Newton went to the decorated book that was being looked at by the guy he didn't fight. Newton then said to Mr. Fuyu, "Have you seen this book before?" "Hi," said Fuyu. "It's a copy of the holy book the glowing being gave to us right before it went back out into space." "Have you read it?" asked one of the crew. "Yes, of course. It's required reading. We all have to read it." Newton read the title and laughed. "Get this, my crew, the title. It's titled, 'Worship Me Only or Else.'" Jeff Long broke in and said, "Damn, strange name for a holy book. Sounds like the title of some kind of religious tract." Newton got a serious look on his eyes, held the decorated book, and said, with a smile, "Would that my enemy had written a book." I heard it said, "This could be the key to bring down the Temple of Ramada completely." And, I think I'll end it here for this thing.